Picture this. You wake up at the same time every morning, grab the same coffee mug, take the same route to work, eat lunch at the same desk, scroll through the same social media feeds, and fall asleep watching the same Netflix shows. Day after day, week after week, year after year. It feels safe, predictable, comfortable. But what if I told you that this very comfort is slowly suffocating the person you were meant to become? If you're using these to fall asleep, that's literally why I make them. So subscribe maybe and tell me where you are and what time. I check comments and it's like Berlin at breakfast, Boston at bedtime, all at once. Your comfort zone isn't just a harmless bubble of familiarity. It's a sophisticated psychological prison that convinces you that safety equals happiness, while quietly stealing your potential one mundane day at a time. And here's the really disturbing part. Most people never realize they're trapped until it's too late, until they look back on decades of playing it safe and wonder where their dreams went to die. Today, we're going to explore something that will fundamentally change how you view your daily choices. We're diving deep into the hidden psychology of comfort zones, the neurological mechanisms that keep you stuck, and why your brain is literally wired to sabotage your growth. But more importantly, we're going to uncover the specific strategies that can break you free from this invisible cage and unlock the extraordinary life that's waiting just beyond your fear. I'm about to show you scientific research that reveals how your comfort zone doesn't just limit your achievements. It actually rewires your brain to crave mediocrity. We'll examine case studies of people who shattered their limitations and discover the exact moment everything changed for them. You'll learn why some individuals seem naturally fearless while others remain paralyzed by the smallest challenges. And by the end of this exploration, you'll have a complete roadmap for transforming your relationship with discomfort forever. But first, let me share something that might shock you. The average person makes the same choices 95% of the time. They eat the same foods, talk to the same people, think the same thoughts, and follow the same routines with almost robotic precision. This isn't laziness or lack of ambition. This is your survival instinct working exactly as designed, keeping you alive by avoiding anything that might threaten your current state of existence. The problem is that what kept our ancestors alive in dangerous environments is now keeping us dead inside safe ones. Your comfort zone operates like a thermostat in your mind. When things get too challenging, it kicks in to cool you down, pulling you back to familiar territory. When life becomes too easy, it might push you toward minor challenges, but never anything that truly threatens your established patterns. This psychological thermostat maintains your emotional temperature within a narrow range, and most people spend their entire lives never knowing they can adjust the settings. But here's where it gets fascinating. Recent neuroscience research has revealed that your comfort zone isn't just a mental concept. It's a physical reality mapped in your brain tissue. Every time you choose the familiar path over the unknown one, you're literally strengthening neural pathways that make future familiar choices easier and unknown choices harder. Your brain is physically rewiring itself to prefer the predictable, creating what scientists call neuroplasticity in reverse. Think of it like this. Imagine your brain as a vast landscape covered in snow. Every thought, every choice, every habit creates a path through that snow. The more you walk the same path, the deeper and more permanent it becomes. Eventually, these paths become so well worn that your thoughts and actions automatically follow them without conscious decision. Meanwhile, the unexplored areas of your mental landscape remain untouched, covered in deep snow, difficult and exhausting to navigate. This is why breaking free from your comfort zone feels so impossibly hard. You're not just fighting your current habits. You're fighting the accumulated weight of thousands of previous choices that have carved deep grooves in your neural architecture. Consider Sarah, a talented graphic designer who spent 8 years at the same company doing the same type of work. She dreamed of starting her own creative agency, but never took the leap. Every Monday morning, she would tell herself this was the week she'd finally update her portfolio and reach out to potential clients. But by Tuesday, the familiar pull of routine would take over. Check emails, complete assignments, attend meetings, go home, repeat. Sarah's comfort zone wasn't just about her job. It was about her entire identity. She had become the person who had good ideas but never acted on them. The person who talked about change but never implemented it. The person who stayed safe and slowly watched her dreams fade into background noise. What Sarah didn't realize was that her brain had developed what psychologists call learned helplessness. After years of choosing security over growth, her neural pathways had become so heavily weighted toward the familiar that even thinking about change triggered stress responses designed to keep her exactly where she was. But here's the crucial part of Sarah's story that most people miss. Her comfort zone wasn't actually comfortable anymore. She was miserable, frustrated, and increasingly anxious about her stagnant career. Yet she remained trapped because her brain had learned to interpret any alternative as more threatening than her current dissatisfaction. This is the paradox that destroys millions of lives. People stay in situations that make them unhappy because their comfort zone has redefined comfort as the absence of uncertainty rather than the presence of joy. The neuroscience behind this phenomenon is both fascinating and terrifying. When you encounter something outside your comfort zone, your amygdala, the brain's alarm system, releases stress hormones that create physical discomfort. Your heart rate increases, your breathing becomes shallow, your muscles tense up. This isn't emotional weakness. This is your ancient survival programming treating new experiences as potential threats to your existence. Meanwhile, when you choose familiar options, your brain rewards you with dopamine, the same neurotransmitter involved in addiction. You literally become addicted to the predictable, creating a biochemical dependency on routine that's as real as any substance addiction. Dr. Richard Bandler, who studied this phenomenon extensively, discovered that people who break free from limiting comfort zones share one crucial characteristic. They've learned to reinterpret the physical sensations of uncertainty as excitement rather than fear. Their brains process the exact same neurochemical signals, but they've trained themselves to associate those signals with positive outcomes rather than negative threats. This reframe isn't just mental gymnastics. It's a fundamental rewiring of how your nervous system responds to challenge. When you begin to view discomfort as information rather than danger, as growth rather than threat, as adventure rather than risk, your entire relationship with possibility transforms. But most people never reach this realization because they've spent years training their brains to avoid discomfort at all costs. They've become experts at rationalization, creating sophisticated mental stories that justify staying exactly where they are. You might tell yourself you're being responsible by staying in that unfulfilling job. You might convince yourself you're being realistic by not pursuing that creative project. You might believe you're being practical by avoiding that difficult conversation or that challenging opportunity. But what you're really doing is teaching your brain that your current limitations are permanent fixtures rather than temporary boundaries. The most insidious part of comfort zone psychology is how it disguises itself as wisdom. It whispers that you're being smart by avoiding risk, mature by accepting compromise, and reasonable by managing expectations. It creates elaborate justifications for why extraordinary outcomes are for other people while ordinary outcomes are perfectly acceptable for you. This voice becomes so convincing that you start to believe your limitations are based on external reality rather than internal programming. You forget that every boundary you've accepted was once just a possibility you chose not to explore. The tragedy is that your comfort zone doesn't announce itself with dramatic fanfare. It doesn't slam doors or issue ultimatums. Instead, it operates through 1,000 tiny surrenders. Each time you choose the safe option over the uncertain one, you're casting a vote for the person you currently are rather than the person you could become. And unlike political elections, these votes are tallied every single day. Consider the moment you decide not to speak up in a meeting because you might say something wrong. Or when you avoid starting that side project because you're not sure you have all the skills yet. Or when you skip the networking event because you don't know anyone there. These seem like minor decisions, barely worth noticing. But your subconscious is paying attention to every single one, learning exactly what kind of person you believe yourself to be. Your comfort zone creates what psychologists call identity foreclosure. You stop exploring who you might become and instead lock onto a fixed version of yourself based on past experiences and current limitations. You become the person who doesn't try new restaurants, doesn't travel alone, doesn't apply for stretch positions, doesn't start conversations with strangers. These aren't character traits. They're learned behaviors that have calcified into seemingly permanent aspects of your personality. But here's what's truly remarkable about human psychology. The same neural mechanisms that trap you in limiting patterns can be redirected to create extraordinary ones. Your brain's tendency toward habit formation isn't your enemy. It's actually your greatest tool for transformation once you understand how to use it intentionally. The key lies in understanding what researchers call the zone of proximal development. This is the sweet spot where challenge meets capability, where you're stretched beyond your current abilities, but not so far that you become overwhelmed and retreat. Most people either stay so far within their comfort zone that they never grow, or they attempt such dramatic leaps that they trigger overwhelming fear responses and snap back to familiar territory. Real transformation happens in the margins, through what might seem like insignificantly small steps that compound over time into profound change. It's taking the elevator to a different floor and walking the stairs for the rest. It's ordering something you've never tried when you go to your regular restaurant. It's asking one question in a meeting where you'd normally stay silent. These micro-expansions might seem trivial, but they serve a crucial neurological function. They teach your amygdala that uncertainty doesn't equal danger. They prove to your subconscious that you can handle more than you previously believed. Most importantly, they begin to shift your identity from someone who avoids the unknown to someone who explores it. Dr. Carol Dweck's research on growth mindset reveals something profound about human potential. People who believe their abilities can be developed through effort and learning consistently outperform those who believe their talents are fixed traits. But what's even more interesting is how this belief affects their relationship with discomfort. Growth-minded individuals interpret challenges, failures, and setbacks as information rather than verdicts. When someone with a fixed mindset encounters difficulty, their comfort zone interprets this as evidence that they've reached their natural limits. The discomfort becomes a stop sign, a clear message that they should retreat to safer territory. But when someone with a growth mindset faces the same difficulty, their brain processes it as feedback, as valuable data about what to adjust or improve. This fundamental difference in interpretation creates entirely different life trajectories. Two people with identical starting capabilities can end up in completely different places simply based on how their brains have learned to process the inevitable discomfort that comes with growth. The most successful people aren't those who never feel fear or uncertainty. They're those who have developed a different relationship with these sensations. They've learned to interpret the butterflies in their stomach as a sign they're moving in the right direction rather than a warning to turn frame requires back. This understanding a counterintuitive truth about human psychology. Your comfort zone doesn't protect you from pain. It just changes the type of pain you experience. The pain of staying stuck, of watching opportunities pass by, of wondering what might have been, of slowly losing respect for yourself as you compromise your dreams year after year. This pain is often far more devastating than the temporary discomfort of pushing beyond familiar boundaries. But our brains are notoriously bad at comparing present discomfort with future regret. The immediate sensation of uncertainty feels more real and threatening than the abstract concept of long-term stagnation. This is why so many people choose the devil they know over the angel they don't, even when the devil is slowly destroying their sense of purpose and possibility. Breaking free requires what researchers call metacognitive awareness. You need to develop the ability to observe your own thought patterns, to notice when your comfort zone is making decisions for you rather than allowing you to make conscious choices about your life direction. This isn't about becoming fearless. It's about becoming aware of when fear is serving you and when it's sabotaging you. Most people operate on autopilot, allowing their established neural pathways to determine their responses to new situations. They encounter an opportunity that would require growth and immediately feel the familiar sensations of uncertainty. Before they can even consciously evaluate the situation, their comfort zone has already decided for them. The opportunity gets dismissed, rationalized away, or postponed indefinitely. But when you develop metacognitive awareness, you create a pause between stimulus and response. You notice the fear arising, and instead of automatically obeying it, you get curious about it. What specifically am I afraid of? Is this fear based on actual danger or just unfamiliarity? What would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? What would I regret more, trying and failing, or never trying at all? This pause is where transformation becomes possible. In that space between fear and action, you reclaim your power to choose your response rather than having your response chosen for you by outdated survival programming. The moment you start exercising this conscious choice, something remarkable happens in your brain. Neuroscientists have discovered that awareness itself begins to rewire your neural networks. When you observe your fear responses instead of being controlled by them, you're literally strengthening the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for executive function and rational decision-making. Meanwhile, you're weakening the automatic pathways that keep you trapped in predictable patterns. This process isn't instant or easy, but it's measurably real. Brain imaging studies show that people who practice conscious awareness of their comfort zone reactions develop thicker neural tissue in areas associated with emotional regulation and cognitive flexibility. Your brain physically changes structure to support your new relationship with uncertainty. Consider Marcus, a software engineer who had worked at the same company for 12 years. He was technically skilled, but had never pursued leadership opportunities because he believed he wasn't management material. Every time a promotion was available, Marcus would convince himself that he lacked the necessary qualifications or that the timing wasn't right. His comfort zone had created an identity around being the reliable technical expert who stayed in his lane. The turning point came when Marcus began noticing his internal dialogue. Instead of automatically accepting his self-imposed limitations, he started questioning them. When the thought, "I'm not leadership material," arose, he would pause and ask himself where that belief originated. He traced it back to a single incident in college when he'd struggled during a group project presentation. One awkward moment 20 years earlier had become the foundation for decades of self-limitation. This awareness didn't immediately eliminate Marcus's fear of leadership challenges, but it revealed how arbitrary and outdated his limiting beliefs had become. He realized that his comfort zone wasn't protecting him from failure. It was guaranteeing a different kind of failure, the slow erosion of his professional potential and personal growth. Marcus began what he called his expansion experiments. Instead of applying for senior roles immediately, he volunteered to lead small technical initiatives. He offered to mentor junior developers. He suggested process improvements in team meetings. Each small step outside his established patterns provided evidence that his self-concept was more flexible than he'd believed. What happened next illustrates a crucial principle about comfort zone expansion. Success didn't come from conquering fear, but from changing his relationship with discomfort. Marcus still felt nervous before leadership situations, but he'd learned to interpret those sensations as signs of growth rather than warnings of danger. His nervous system was sending the same signals, but his brain was processing them completely differently. Within 18 months, Marcus had been promoted to team lead, then department manager. The same person with the same technical skills had accessed entirely different possibilities, simply by questioning the validity of his self-imposed boundaries. This transformation reveals something profound about human potential. Your comfort zone doesn't just limit what you do, it limits who you think you are. And your identity is the most powerful force shaping your behavior. When you see yourself as someone who avoids public speaking, you'll find countless reasons to avoid opportunities that require presentation skills. When you identify as someone who isn't creative, you'll dismiss artistic pursuits before even exploring them. When you believe you're not a risk taker, you'll automatically choose security over possibility. But identity isn't fixed. It's constantly being reinforced or challenged by your daily choices. Every time you act slightly outside your established patterns, you're sending a signal to your subconscious about who you're becoming. Your brain is always updating its model of you based on recent evidence of your capabilities and preferences. This outside your comfort zone is why small, consistent actions more powerful than dramatic gestures. A single bold move might feel impressive, But if it's followed by weeks of retreat to familiar territory, your brain will categorize it as an anomaly rather than evidence of growth. But repeated small expansions create a pattern that your subconscious begins to recognize as your new normal. Dr. B.J. Fogg's research at Stanford reveals that lasting behavior change happens through what he calls tiny habits. These are actions so small they seem almost insignificant, but they bypass the resistance mechanisms that usually sabotage larger changes. Instead of trying to transform your entire life overnight, you make micro-adjustments that gradually shift your comfort zone boundaries. The key is understanding that your comfort zone has momentum. It's like a massive ship that can't turn quickly but can be gradually redirected through consistent pressure applied in a new direction. Each small choice to embrace discomfort rather than avoid it applies that pressure, slowly but inevitably, changing your life's trajectory. This process requires what psychologists call distress tolerance. Most people have been conditioned to interpret any uncomfortable sensation as a problem that needs immediate resolution. They feel anxiety and immediately seek ways to eliminate it. They experience uncertainty and rush to create false clarity. They encounter difficulty and interpret it as evidence they should quit. But discomfort is often information, not emergency. The butterflies you feel before a challenging conversation might be telling you this conversation matters, not that you should avoid it. The uncertainty you experience when considering a career change might indicate you're finally taking your growth seriously, not that you should stay where you are. Learning to sit with discomfort without immediately trying to escape it is perhaps the most valuable skill you can develop. This doesn't mean seeking out suffering or ignoring genuine warning signs. It means developing the capacity to experience uncomfortable emotions without being controlled by them. Think of discomfort as a temporary weather pattern, rather than a permanent climate condition. Just as you wouldn't cancel all outdoor activities because of a passing rainstorm, you don't need to abandon growth opportunities because of temporary emotional discomfort. The storm will pass, but the growth you achieve by moving through it becomes part of your permanent capabilities. Your comfort zone will never announce when it's time to leave. It will never send you an invitation to grow or a memo about missed opportunities. It operates in whispers and gentle redirections, slowly convincing you that tomorrow is a better day for change, that next year will bring more certainty, that someday you'll feel ready. But here's the truth that changes everything. You already have everything you need to take the next step. The person you're meant to become is waiting just beyond the edge of your current limitations, and the only thing standing between who you are and who you could be is your willingness to feel uncomfortable while you bridge that gap. Start today. Start small, but start, because the life you've always wanted is hidden in the discomfort you've always avoided.